everybody. This is Kelly Jackson with TruthWire News. I'm coming to you today with a very special interview with the Congressional District 6 candidate running in the primary. That is John Henry. I know most of the news outlets like to try to ignore him and pretend like there's only two other candidates in this race, Johnny Garrett and Van Hillary, who, quite frankly, and there's no, I am biased, so I'm just going to say both of them are big old rhinos. So John Henry is the grassroots candidate in this race. So we are interviewing him today. Thank you so much, John, for being here today. And I am delighted to have you.
I'm so grateful. Thank you, Ms. Kelly, for having me. This is a unique opportunity, and like I've been the last 14 months, I'll interview with anybody at any time, and I'm grateful for that. So thank you so much for just this opportunity that we have to spend with you for this few minutes here.
Okay, wonderful. So obviously everybody knows that you've had a very successful military career and now you're running for Congress. What is happening in America that made you decide now was the perfect time for you to step into politics?
That's a great question, and thank you for that. I did. I spent 27 years in the Marine Corps. After I married my high school sweetheart, off we went. And I served in Desert Storm, Operation Iraqi Freedom, and Operation Enduring Freedom. But really, those were challenging times. I had the unique opportunity to serve, but I think really the bedrock of everything we do is before I went in the Marine Corps. I was born and raised on a small farm. My father and my family, we raised feeder pigs. We had cousins that had dairies. We raised tobacco. We had we didn't know it, but it was a storied childhood. Hard work, hay in the summer, hard work throughout the year in tobacco from March all the way till December and January. And so we knew what hard work was. Well, every time it seemed like I came home, one of those industries, the government had run out. My father, a lifelong farmer his entire life, he no longer could raise feeder pigs. We found out later on that years past that China had bought Smithfield Farms, the largest pork producer in America.
Yes, they did.
And that actually, but way before that, 30 years before that, though, we noticed dairies were having more and more regulations on them. So all the dairies that literally littered our countryside, these small farmers were going out of business because they couldn't meet the regulations. And one by one, the dairies went away. And it's called vertical integration. And vertical integration is when they buy the farmers out and make it one large conglomerate. Think about it as one big industry. So instead of all these small dairies, you have these one large dairy. Like, for example, today, the 40,000 cow dairy in Indiana owned by Walmart.
Wow.
Yeah. So you can imagine how many jobs did Walmart take away with that 40,000 cow dairy?
Yes.
All think about it, all milk, all butters, everything that you're thinking of. That's why we're running today, is because all those jobs are gone now. I mean, if a child wants to be an architect, a lawyer, to work in a factory, they can do that. But the one thing they can't do is they can't be a farmer. So when we came out of the military, we looked around, we're like, we can't farm anything but cattle. There's nothing left. And so we thought that was a serious issue. And that's why mainly the reason we're in this. It's the number one pillar of our entire campaign. And honestly, ma'am, it's because of food security. You think about when you have all those farms around, you're getting food, your dairies, your meats from local processors into local stores. And that's what that's what we believe that it should be now. And because of my military experience, when you have that, that's called regional secure foods. You don't worry about food chains coming from California and Indiana or Florida. It's right here in Tennessee. And that's so important. And we saw when you have those long food
during COVID
and the ice storm in Nashville.
And the ice storm. Oh my gosh. Yes.
Huge ice storm in Nashville.
Right.
And it slows everything down. And it only takes, ma'am, as you know, a few days and our shelves are empty.
Yes.
And so we believe that agriculture should have the same opportunity as any other small business to work and have our children not only be architects and engineers, but they should be able to be farmers if they want as well. So that's the main reason we're running. We have a couple other pillars I'm sure we'll get to, but that's the main one, man.
In fact, I want to dive a little bit deeper into the agriculture and the food security issues, because it really aligns with what I see President Trump doing now, because our industries in America have been so hollowed out by this whole globalist agenda of diversifying all of, like they shipped all of our industry overseas. And like you mentioned, COVID and other times, our supply chains were reliant on other countries, and we just can't have that. So I want to get into that a little bit more deeply in a minute, but first I wanted to start with the immigration and the national security issue. So we just talked about you've made making the border secure a cornerstone of your campaign, and most people think about illegal immigration in terms of border crossings, but you see it as like a broader national security issue. What should Congress do beyond simply finishing the wall or making the wall more fortified?
Well, I think we'll see that we truly believe that it's about the law, right? I mean, since our founding fathers, they said you just can't have people coming to your country without proper authorization or the legal path.
Right.
We believe, just like we would if we were going to another country, that we don't just skip the line and go in, right? We would have to, if they let us, which no other country does what we do, but there's no free flow. The law should be upheld, and those states or organizations or cities that don't uphold that should be accountable to the law.
Yes.
It's very clear. And I think you'll see that's where our country over the last 4 years, or the 4 years of the Biden administration, has overwhelmed our system.
Absolutely.
Literally overwhelmed our system. So housing, we know that 20 million people, if that's the number, we think it's higher than that. It's coming.
I think those are the ones we know about. I think it's much higher.
And another reason we're running is common sense. Common sense says, where are those people being housed right now? What Americans are being pushed off the side so those people can live in housing that maybe our graduates of high school should be living in right now? Those are the things that really we feel should be tackled first. Who's here illegally? If you're here illegally and you did not go through the law that we have established, then you have to leave. I'm sorry, but there's a line. There's a line to come to the greatest nation on the planet, and nobody should skip that line. And we think that that's really hurt our young people today, those coming out of high school, like I talk about, are on our systems. You think about water, we think about sewage, we think about the way homes are set up, we think about our supply chains. They're being stretched. Our welfare, we found out that 64%, approximately 64% of all those people that came in under the Biden administration are receiving some type of welfare right now.
Right.
That's a concern for us.
It's a heavy tax on our resources that are designed to be for Americans.
Yes. And we have family that have work people coming across who are on and I talk about law, because what we've done is our farmers who use the H-2A visas, they come over, they do the paperwork, they spend thousands of dollars to get, we'll say 2 or 3 people. They come over, they come in March, they fill the paperwork out, they provide them housing, they provide them a living wage, they provide them transportation, and then they work from March until November. Then they go back to Mexico or Argentina, wherever they're from, and that system's worked for decades. These people aren't looking to become citizens, but what's happened is we've lumped all the illegal immigrants in with those people that work here in America. And that's 2 different systems, 2 separate laws. One is being applied correctly. The other one has been abused for 4 years. And we think the nation is really hurt by that illegal immigration that we've seen over the last 4 years. And something should be done immediately to stop that, to thwart that from happening any further.
So then I guess my next question to you would be, because of the abuse of the legitimate systems that are available to people to come, do you think, I've seen a lot of people asking for a complete and total halt of any kind of immigration, legal or obviously we don't want illegal immigration, but I've also seen calls for a stop on all kinds of immigration. We are full. We don't like it's creating an issue for people in our country getting those entry level jobs and things like that.
Yes.
It just creates more competition, and we already have enough competition as it is. So what would you say about that?
Well, it's the H-1B group that they bring in here. We have children that graduate, or young adults that graduate from high school and college. These jobs, the accountant jobs, the jobs that pay really well, and yet we're still bringing people over to do those jobs. Now, again, that should not be. We need to do something to stop this, I think, immediately. Why would we let people in this country that's taking good paying jobs from our young Americans? And you would hope that young Americans would be more involved in these campaigns. I mean, you just talked about earlier the two that they're in this campaign now.
Yeah.
There's a political paradigm that they live in that the real world America doesn't live in, and that's why we're running this campaign. We believe that any immigration should be vetted through the laws that are on the books. Again, we've said it before, we'll say it again. Enforce the law, make everyone abide by the law, even those cities we feel that are harboring, who are keeping us from I mean, gosh, ICE agents. Could you imagine being an ICE agent in some of these large cities today?
The recruiting efforts in that space must be absolutely nightmarish. As somebody who has worked in recruiting in the past, I can't even imagine trying to recruit for ICE agents in places like New York or Chicago or LA.
And they talk out of both sides of their mouth. They say we support our military. Well, who do we think are ICE agents? I think about how many people come out of the military and they want to be part of that brotherhood, that sisterhood. So they join the police force, or they join ICE. Yes, and they want that. They want to be part of that team. And yet we have these liberal lawmakers and these people who think totally outside the normal way of thinking. And just to do that and to say that you support the military, but you don't support ICE, the FBI, those things, that's just double speak, and it's unconscionable.
So let's shift gears just a little bit. As we've seen across Europe, we've watched the growth of Muslim enclaves where assimilation has largely failed, and concerns have been raised about efforts to normalize aspects of Sharia law. Do you believe America should be taking those concerns more seriously? And where do you believe Congress should draw the line between protecting religious liberty and protecting our constitutional system?
Yeah, I want to start with the groundwork. With my tours in Iraq and Afghanistan, I want people to understand Islam is not a religion. Islam is its own. It has its own law. It has its own government. And what happens, we call it in our campaign the red-green alliance. Red being the communism and socialism side, and then you have the Islam side, the green side. And what happens is in countries, this has happened all throughout the Middle East, as a lot of your audience, very biblically mindset, understands how this works. Those countries were conquered by European countries centuries ago. And what happens is they think that the government can run it better, which is communism. And so communism starts out, and they welcome in because Islam comes in the guise of a religion. And sadly, because of our education system, most people think Islam is a religion. And so they say, wait a minute, it's protected by the First Amendment. Time out. No, those laws have been passed before. If you come here and you're looking to overthrow the government with your own government, which is what Islam is, then we know that's not compatible. And so Islam and the Christian foundation of our country are completely incompatible. And so we have to, I think the key is we need to elect people with the mindset that Christianity and God first is what this country was founded on and must continue to sustain. Those morals. Yes.
Is it because of the incorporation of the religion of Islam and the Sharia law? Because the law is part and parcel of the religion. So you can't separate the two, right?
Right. They like to think they can't, but they clearly do. Islam not being a religion, its own government, and you see Sharia law. Well, Sharia law is part of that. Part of that. It's part of the foundation of Islam. It's just one of the many laws that Islam has, right? As its own government, the government of Islam. We have to say, we can't let people say that Islam is a religion because it's just not a religion. They cannot separate Islam from their government. They are the government. And so that's why you see Iraq and Afghanistan run by Islam, not run by the religion of Islam, run by the
the radicalized
yes,
factions
yes,
of
yes.
Islam.
And they never separate the two.
The
They do
ones that
not.
have been shouting death to America since 1979.
Well, that's true. That's a very good point. And so the idea is, ma'am, the Muslim Brotherhood is made very clear. I'm sure you
Yes,
all know this.
yes.
Muslim Brotherhood says they will take over America, not by force, but by the ballot box.
Oh, yes.
And so that's why it's important that we Christians, we God-fearing people, step up and run for these offices.
Yeah.
Because in 20 to 30 years, it could be dog catcher or it could be governor. It's going to have a Muslim candidate in every single position if we don't wake up and the scales don't come off our eyes now and get Christians to step forward.
I agree, because I've been covering on my other channel where I cover more national level stuff, the recent New York Congressional District elections that were all won by radical. These people are all Muslim and they're democratic socialist and they're communist. And so you're absolutely right. The Democrats are decrying this and saying, oh, well, they're not taking over the Democrat Party. Yes, they are.
Yes.
Yes, they are.
Yes.
So we have to be it's actually almost incumbent on any centrist Democrat to look honestly at what's happening in their party and do something about it instead of feeling shame for pointing out what's true.
Yes, ma'am. And people think it's going to take a long time for it to happen, but I want to reference back to our very beginning.
Yeah.
It wasn't 30 years ago, 35, just 3 quick decades ago, there were literally dairies everywhere. Yeah. It's just like a dripping faucet, one dairy at a time, and all of a sudden there's none. And all of your milks and your butters, when you go to Walmart, they all have vertically integrate all of that industry. Well, it's the same thing when it comes to public policies as well. If you just stand by and one mosque here, one mosque there, one radical Muslim who, under this disguise of a Democrat socialist, well, you say that's what it is, but it's going to end up being an Islamic following behind that. And eventually, when we talk about the Red-Green Alliance, when we talk about the communism, socialism, it starts out that way, just like Afghanistan and just like many Middle Eastern countries does. And all of a sudden, you'll find out that Islam will completely take that over. Yeah. Once the government is in charge. Yeah. It happens in every country. And that's what's supposed to happen in America, according to Muslim Brotherhood.
Yeah. I mean, that's sort of like a slow boiling frog. And if you look at areas of our country that have a heavy population of Muslims, like Dearborn, Michigan, I lived in Detroit for a year. So I saw this with my own eyes. And you will see a lot of the city governments like Hamtramck and Dearborn. I don't think there are any people who aren't Muslim in their local city and county governments, and their township governments are almost entirely Muslim, and they're not. It's not about the Constitution. It is completely about their religion, their culture, and their own law, and that's kind of how they run things. Yeah.
On purpose. And it's laid out. The groundwork's been laid out in many countries before. Sadly, we see it in Europe. You'd referenced Europe earlier. Yeah. They have a situation on their hands. Are we going to sit by again with scales on our eyes and let this happen to America, to where all of a sudden in our own civil war, which will be a religious war, if people think that Islam is a religion, well, it's going to be a significant issue. But we can stop it now. We believe we can stop it now with solid policies that make sure that Christianity is the foundation of everything we do. Get rid of this, anything socialism, anything that we talk about as communism, that needs to completely leave our vernacular completely.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we have school boards across the country that are peopled with very leftist progressives that believe in this stuff, and for some reason they think that socialism just hasn't been done the right way in a country somewhere, when in reality it's been tried over and over and over again, and it's communism, and that's how it will rear its ugly head. But just while we're on this subject of this integration into our culture by religion, cultures or legal systems like Sharia and Muslim.
Yes.
Here in Tennessee, we've had a significant debate over school choice and education funding. And some critics argue that taxpayer-funded voucher programs, which I call them school stamps, could ultimately send public dollars that will teach values contrary to American constitutional principles or receive foreign influence. Like some schools in Memphis have received the vouchers to have Muslim schools. Do you think that lawmakers should require greater transparency and accountability for where those taxpayer education dollars ultimately go? And would that be more of a congressional, like a federal level thing? I know that the president wants to dissolve the Department of Education, and I'm waiting for that to happen. But or would that be more at the responsibility of the state level?
Well, that's a good point. And of course, I'm a states guy. I believe everything should be run from state or below. But we see through our voucher program here in Tennessee, it's just it's another governmental unaccounted program. There's just not enough accountability. I'm a big Doge guy. That's another reason I'm running for Congress, is what they've done to uncover billions of dollars. We've been running this campaign for 14 months, and we're still blown away by how much fraud, waste, and abuse Doge found. Yeah. And so we believe that should be applied to every facet of government, every spending, any program, any department should have their own Doge, self-report where everything goes. And I think we probably in Tennessee should be a good lesson learned to find out that even some of our elected officials were receiving some of the voucher money. I mean, we didn't have safeguards put in that to keep federal or state elected people to the receiving the vouchers from the state. They should never be able to do that. Yeah. But the vouchers, they can be used in the 6th district right now. We know that any type of voucher program is just another government program, just like No Child Left Behind in 2001 and 2. Oh yeah. I mean, it's a slippery slope. It just continues to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And we know the vouchers, they're talking about even increasing the vouchers.
They already passed it. I sat in the committee meeting in April where I watched them argue for more money and less transparency. And I watched all of the usual suspects vote for it. And then somebody was stuck on the highway and they couldn't get there to vote. And I mean, it was the usual shenanigans.
Right.
And then they don't even want to produce any kind of measurement that shows whether or not all of those millions of tax dollars are actually helping these kids that they say they're trying to help.
That's a very good point, ma'am. And it's important for all of us. I'm blessed. After my time in the Marine Corps, I continued my education, and I used my GI Bill that was used from World War II and was able to receive my PhD from Johnson University, the Christian College in Knoxville. And I'm a data-driven person. Yeah. I believe school choice is school choice, and keep the government out of it. Oh, yeah. Whether it's homeschooling, whether it's a hybrid of the two, let's put education back into our parents' hands and into our local school boards. I tell people, you're just talking about Secretary McMahon trying to push, as President Trump wanted, the Department of Education back down to the states. Well, like I said, I want to go even further. I want to help Secretary McMahon get all the way back down to teacher level. Yeah. That's when in our campaign, our third pillar is education, because we believe teachers in the old school lesson plans where we saw major achievements in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. Yeah. We should go back to that. Yes. Let's give it to our teachers. Let them assess. In August, I call it the assessment. Let teachers assess their students. Let teachers see that, oh my goodness, my class is behind on reading. Let me put more reading in the first semester before our Christmas break. And so they do that. Give them the responsibility. But we've taken everything out of teachers' hands, and the money trail goes all the way to DC because of No Child Left Behind and so many other programs that have added to that. No Child Left Behind. I mean, there's been so many things the government's done to push more regulations to schools, the testing. Nobody follows any of the data. And as you just said, we want the data in all of this. Let the people make the decision, but they don't do it. And that's a big issue for us in our campaign. Yeah. Yeah.
So back to the radical Muslim influence that we've seen. Yes. sort of creeping its way into our government systems all over the country. Recently, there's been some controversy surrounding the Imam Omar Suleiman, including criticism over his public statements and associations. And more broadly, do you believe Congress should investigate organizations or individuals operating within the United States that may be promoting these extremist ideologies while presenting themselves as mainstream religious leaders? Oh, he's just an imam. He's just, talking to the people in his mosque. It's not a big deal. What do you think about that?
I do. I clearly, yes, ma'am. To answer the question up front, yes, ma'am. Clearly, an investigation needs to be opened up as soon as possible. And I say that because there have been laws passed. Our team's looking up right now. There was a law passed in like 1956. I'm sorry about the date. I don't have the specifics here. Right. But there was a law passed that if you come to this country and you are not ready to assimilate, or you will not assimilate, they're able to deport you for that. Yeah. Well, that's why this investigation is so important, because this is the dripping faucet you and I have already referenced. Right. That if this gets out of hand, it can cost our children and our grandchildren. Yeah. And that's why I think this investigation, specifically because it's on the national news, is why it's so important to open that investigation now. Yeah. And let's get to the bottom of this now. I think that's why your question is so relevant, and it's so important that we begin now.
Yes. Yes. So shifting gears just a smidge, a lot, actually, we're going to talk about agriculture as national security, because I don't think people they don't really think about it, especially in our country, where we walk into a grocery store and we've got all these choices, and it just seems like it's a never-ending stream of food and availability. But one of the statements on your website really that stood out to me is you say food security is national security. And that's not something that most congressional candidates are talking about. Explain to our viewers what you mean by that, and why voters should see agriculture as national security instead of just simply an economic issue.
And so that's another reason we're running. And I talked about earlier, it's the main part of our platform is I've been to other countries where the government controls all the food. Yeah. In Afghanistan, the government controls all the food. Yeah. And that's an issue for us. We went to DC last July and we tried to educate those lawmakers, but I'm just being honest with you. The reason we're running is we have experience in this. We understand this. I and my wife and my family have a 30 cow-calf operation. We understand the markets are so volatile up and down. Yeah. Everybody that's listening to right now, every bit of the meat that you consume, 85% of all the meats you consume, beef, chicken, and pork today are controlled by 4 major packers processors. Mm-hmm. 4.
I've heard this.
And as you and I talked about, it used to be a regional thing. Mm-hmm. So all the pigs were raised here. They would go to the stockyard. They would go to a street in Nashville called Elm Hill Pike. We're one of the largest pork processors. So northern Georgia, northern Alabama, southern Kentucky would get all their pork supplies from right here out of Nashville, Tennessee. Mm-hmm. Well, that's been taken away now. And it's large processors over on the coast, as we said, North Carolina, Virginia, some of the largest pork processors, majorly owned by China, are controlling those meats. We have Brazil, JBS, controlling a large bit of our beef industry in Tennessee. Well, really the whole country. I'm sorry, the whole country. Wow. And so they're bringing meats across. Last year, the Labels Act is just labeling our meats, letting you know the country of origin. It's so important when you, as a mother, anybody goes to the store, when you pick it up, you need to say, if it says USDA, honestly, that meat come from USDA. Yeah. It's a USDA, United States grown meat. Well, now what they do is, because the larger packers processors, they may bring meat in from Argentina, they may bring meat in from Mexico and mix it with American meat. And it may be Mexican meat, it may be American meat. You don't know, because the Labels Act, your congressmen, the people we keep electing, do not have any experience in this area. And so they won't vote for the Labels Act. Well, you deserve, and families deserve, to know where your meats come from. Yeah. Our job in U.S. Congress is to get a coalition, mainly of veterans, because that's what I am, together, and we need to demonopolize this industry. This is very important for everyone, so that your meats can come back to a regional area. Yeah. And those young people that want to farm, that want to grow pigs, that want to grow cows, sheep, things of that nature, and have dairies can go back to that.
Yeah.
And so that your meats are regionally grown. And if anything happens, as we mentioned earlier, supply chain, it's still here. It's still local, just like anything else.
Yeah.
And we talk about that specifically in our campaign that needs to happen at the congressional level to affect meats all across the United States of America.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that. Yeah, I believe you're right that a lot of them don't have that experience, but I think they also get, a check from, a lobbyist who is being paid by some foreign corporation.
Yes.
And that's just it's how we got where we are. And I think everybody's just sick to death of it. Yep. We've seen increasing concern over foreign ownership of farmland. Now, I know we've had some legislation passed here in Tennessee, but consolidation in agriculture and then imported food being labeled as American products, like you said. What specific legislation would you support to protect Tennessee farmers and America's food supply? So if you were to sit down and write a bill, what kind of language would you want to see in that? And would you encourage the rest of Congress to make sure is included before they just vote for something?
Well, I think the biggest thing for me is anything that China owns in America must be divested. It must be bought back by America and owned by America. We cannot own 1 square inch of Chinese land. They should not be able to own 1 square inch of American land. Now, we have looked at
our like team. No-brainer.
Our team did look at China owns a little over 300,000 acres approximately of American soil today. And we say, well, John, why would you do that? And I say, well, it's been done already. They say, what are you talking about? I said, a little thing called TikTok was owned by China. And we've divested that. And there's a Chinese TikTok, and now there's American TikTok. A multi-billionaire bought that part of TikTok and divested all of it back from China. We think it's just as important to do that with Smithfield Farms.
Yeah.
They don't have any more right to own the largest pork producer in America than anything. So it should come back to American hands and American ownership. That should happen. That's one of the bills that I will quickly write up and do my best to get some of the more senior congressmen on board with this. Because let's be honest, it's a matter of experience and a lack of knowledge on their part that's keeping this from going on. If they think that meat production is not more important than a TikTok app, we have some priorities a little bit backwards, and that's why it's so important for us. So we're going to support that legislation to make sure a bill is sponsored that pushes all Chinese owned land in America to be repurchased by America, whatever means necessary, and major businesses like the pork industry to be, again, bought back by America and come back to America. And there's a number of industries so important. I mean, you would be amazed by all the companies that China owns in America.
Oh, I wouldn't be shocked at all, I don't think.
Tyson Foods, man. Tyson Foods has a big ownership of China. That's all the chicken that we eat in America and some beef products come from Tyson. And that's important to us that we understand, educate, and get policies to change that immediately.
Yeah, no, I think you are speaking the president's language right there, because based on what I'm learning about his strategies with disconnecting from this global cabal that we've basically all the presidents before that, even, Ronald Reagan to a degree, because I just think he didn't know, have connected themselves to this global network and strategy. And I won't go down the rabbit trail of who I think is running it, but the president's clearly wanting to implement what's called the Hamiltonian system or the American system, because our industries have been so hollowed out. What you're talking about right there is right up the alley of what he's talking about wanting to do in reincorporating all of that back into our government, providing more jobs for our people. And then if some kind of world catastrophe happens, we're good. We have our own supply chains. And so I think if you manage to get up there and you write a bill like that, I think that that is something that the president would definitely champion, because obviously food it's a basic. Right.
Yes, ma'am. And to drill down and put a little meat on the bone here is we have got to stop monopolies across America. We just see it so much. I mean, the Sherman Act. The Sherman Act was signed in somewhere around 1890. Again, approximately. Please don't quote me on the date. But the Sherman Act was because things like sugar was being monopolized, oil was being monopolized, things of that nature. So laws have been on the books for decades, if not centuries. We're just not enforcing them. The Stockers and Packyard, Stockyard and Packers Act was passed so that we wouldn't monopolize the meats in America. Well, look at us today. All we're doing is making laws, and because of the lack of knowledge, you'd think lawyers would know that, but because of our lack of knowledge, they're not enforcing the laws on the books, just like we talked about in immigration and now with monopolies.
Right. So let's kind of just shift that even further a little bit to manufacturing and jobs in Tennessee.
Yes.
We were just talking about rebuilding manufacturing and protecting American workers. In my house, this is a big deal for us because my husband worked for a major auto manufacturer, and he was essentially shoved out of his job 10 months ago. And because of the density of people now, new people in Tennessee, which is fine, and just AI and the job application process, it just seems like we got more people than jobs. And my husband's never been unemployed this long. So what would you do in Congress to bring manufacturing jobs back to Tennessee specifically, and how important are the tariffs and trade policy in accomplishing that?
Yeah, this is the second pillar of our campaign. We've been preaching this literally for 14 months now.
Yeah.
You see, because we elected, again, the same politicians, not knowledgeable, not experienced, they passed NAFTA in 1994.
Oh, gosh.
And where we live, we're in a very rural area.
Yeah.
At that time, ma'am, we had at least three factories here that were just incredible. So we had, and you all probably saw it well, we had a shirt factory, we had a sock factory, we even had a clock factory, ma'am, right here in our little town.
Wow.
Imagine buying a clock now and turning it over and not seeing China on the bottom.
Yeah, no.
But clocks were made here. We believe that things that we must have to sustain an American society must be made in America.
Yeah.
And what is that? Well, there's a lot of different things. We even go to the military industrial complex.
Yes.
What electronics in our military gear or our equipment are made overseas?
Oh, yeah.
All those things have to come back to America. So my ability to give the Americans, or specifically people in the 6th district, the data, what can we bring back? Because people say, that's such a platitude, John, say you're going to bring things back. I'm saying the items that we need to be self-sufficient, whether it's electronics, whatever it may be, needs to be what we call it reshored. It was offshore. With NAFTA, it needs to be reshored. Now, we've seen President Trump make big strides in this, and you just talked about it. If you have an Apple Watch, if you have an iPhone, if you're buying one today, those screens of those instruments are made in Kentucky. That's right. Because President Trump said, hey, Apple, tap, 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 we need you to bring something back. So that's a multi-billion-dollar contract made right here in Kentucky, our next door neighbor up north. That's so important.
That is.
We want to drill down further, ma'am. We want to know what we have to have in America to survive, and we want them made here. So supply chains that go overseas, we're not, at mercy of that. It needs to be made here. And we think, just as your husband, what a great manager, what a great leader he would be in any of these industries that we could bring back. And that's got to be a priority of our whole campaign, is to make that happen.
Yeah. He had 27 years in his space in marketing and sales and customer experience. And, you get to a certain point in your career where you have all of that knowledge. And so therefore you deserve a certain level of salary, and gosh, we don't want to pay that. And so that was why I went back to that, the immigration. They've got somebody who will work a lot cheaper, that's younger and has all of this industry knowledge. I guess experience isn't as important as it used to be, just more knowledge base. But, just the more opportunity you have, the more opportunity that it gives somebody like us to go and apply for some of those, positions. If we have, small to medium to even larger companies that want to come to Tennessee. And I know that Tennessee has already created this really very favorable environment for business. It's almost a little too favorable in some ways because we're getting like Starbucks and places like that here. But I do appreciate the fact that it isn't hard to convince companies to come here and establish themselves so that then we have more opportunity. And I have older teenagers, I have young adults that live in my house. So they're going to need opportunities too.
Yes, ma'am. I'll hit on a little bit again, a little meat on the bone on that one.
Mm-hmm.
So your husband's a perfect example. That experience, just like teachers, has a very small window, right? So our teachers, the ones that are 50, 60, 70 years old in the classroom, they know what lesson plans are. Our farmers, the average age of a farmer in Tennessee is 63 years old.
Oh, wow.
That's a very small window
Yes.
to bring farming back. The same thing with this, I believe, the industries that can come back. The knowledge we would lose if your husband is not in a business, is not in a managerial position, that's invaluable.
Yeah.
And we have a very small window, and that's why we're running now, is we believe that our campaign brings that to light, that small window of farmers, teachers, and entrepreneurs needs to come back to small town America.
Yes, especially the entrepreneurial, where you get these. And from what I've heard, the president is utilizing some of the like governmental agencies like the Department of War to establish these, I guess, banks within the government that are helping people to create business that works with the government, that provides a lot of this stuff. So I love seeing that kind of ingenuity where he's utilizing the things he has access to. So he's not having to go through people who have an axe to grind against him to try and get it done. So I think electing somebody like you, of course, would be helpful in that scenario because you align with his goals for our country. So, that's a great opportunity for you and for him and for us here.
Yes,
we're
watching the administration very closely. We like the way last week that Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth was actually on a committee. They were speaking, and they brought the Secretary of Agriculture in to combine those two and talk about how national security and food security, how important they are. And we think that Secretary of Agriculture, she did a great job showing really the points that we've made for 14 months clearly to all those there in the committee. So we were proud of that, and we're proud of where our campaigns come. And if you look at our date stamps all the way back 14 months, you'll see a lot of what we've talked about has been mirrored by President Trump and his administration. We're proud of how forward thinking our campaign has been in that area.
Yeah, you definitely have been forward thinking because not a lot of people are. It's because we've decided to measure the value of something by how cheap it is at the checkout counter versus the value of what we're getting for what we're paying. And that mind shift has to change if we don't want to end up as slaves to other countries because we've, even the president, his own deal that he redrafted to replace NAFTA, he's even reworking that so that it's not part of one big connected contract. He's making independent contracts with Mexico and Canada, and so that's how he's breaking up this globalist cabal. And it's just been so, I think, fascinating and exciting to watch. And that's why they all want to kill him, because he's trying to do this stuff.
Yes. And he's been a warrior, and I'm grateful for him. And I'm glad you just hit a little bit out. You said globalist, but since the early 90s, globalism has been an epic failure. I mean, we saw one administration since then, all 8 years pushing globalism. It's been an epic failure, we believe. We believe that what they've offshored from America has just been detrimental. We believe that bringing that back will be instrumental in what we can do for security going forward. That way other countries wouldn't see us as dependent on them, but dependent on us. I mean, obviously other countries are trying to do that, but we have the ability to do it. We have the agricultural ability to do it. We just need to make sure we're doing everything we can to release those regulations, those policies that keep the American farmer and industries down. They need to be reversed as soon as possible.
Yeah. You know what? You just hit the nail on the head right there, really, because they need us. That is the president knows this. Like he's the ultimate deal maker, right? He wrote The Art of the Deal. And he knows that when you have leverage, it is the most valuable thing you could possibly have. And none of this globalism stuff works without the United States, because we're the biggest dog in the dog park. And he's utilizing that and going, yeah, I don't want to do that with you anymore, and pound sand. Yes. And it's been so great to watch. And I'm getting so weary of the focus on the Middle East and specific countries. And it's like, if there's never been such a, you're missing the tree for the, you're missing the forest, you're focused on a tree.
Yes.
We've got to get ourselves in a mindset where we're looking at actually what he's doing. He's re-implementing the American system and breaking us off from what I consider is essentially the British imperial system. I mean, because as far as I'm concerned, that's where all their money's coming from. And it always has come from for 125 years.
And it's almost like it's God inspired. I'm not saying anything, but if you look at our founding fathers, they knew, hey, for us to truly be what we're going to be, we have a huge responsibility. And that responsibility can only be carried out by God-fearing citizens. We know that. Spiritual, God-based on the Bible. That's what the incredible, enormous responsibility we have as America to be, as you said, the big dogs on the block. That takes a lot of ethicals, a lot of ethics, a lot of morals, a lot of principles that have to be God-based. And that's what's so important. Whether you think President Trump is or is not, what he's doing is scripturally based. We have to be responsible, but we also have to make sure that we're taking care of our own people at the same time. Huge, huge weight that I think most Americans are ready to bear, just given the opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. I 100% agree with you. So one last question. If you're elected to Congress and we're going to be sitting here 1 year from today, what do you hope you've accomplished that would enable Tennesseans to say, you know, we made the right choice?
Influence. I think I'm not your normal politician. I'm not. I've got the experience both in defense and agriculture, two of the most important things, I think, both in the scriptures and in our lives today. And you will see, I think, influence, and that is me working to educate the politicians as best I can with thought papers, with policies that really embolden Americans from the ground up. That's very important. I think you'll see somebody that's a little audacious. I'll be honest with you. As a Marine,
right in.
As a Marine, I think you'll see that everything that I talk about today, ma'am, came from the 6th District. Everything. I mean, I live here. I'm not in a big city. I'm way out in the country. I listen to people, and you'll see after a year that I've listened and I've carried policies and pushed policies. Now, I'm also a candidate who's not afraid to go home. I actually work a job. I'm like most everybody listening to this podcast right now. I'm a working man. And so I'm not beholden to DC. I'm not. I am beholden to the people of 6th District. Just like as a U.S. Marine for 27 years, I was beholden to my Marines to tell the commander the truth. And the 6th District needs the truth. And that's what I'm prepared to do, is give them the truth, to be open, to be honest, and not be beholden to DC and not need a job from DC. I'm a retired Marine. I'm grateful for that. As a Sergeant Major in the Marine Corps, this is something probably the first time I've ever said, there's never been a Sergeant Major in the United States Marines elected to Congress.
Wow. Wow, that seems so odd to me.
It'll be a little bit different too when you hear me as I come back on your show after we're elected to let you know how we're going and how we transition. Very important. But things that won't change, ma'am, is listening to the people that listen to your show and listen to the people around the 6th District. I'll continue to listen. I'll continue to go out there even after I'm elected, ma'am.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you so much, John, for being with us today. I think this was a really great substantive conversation. I hope that it enabled people to really get a great glimpse into, you know, how effective you would be sitting in our congressional delegation for the state of Tennessee. Because, you know, quite frankly, we've been a little light, in my opinion, on effective people. So, you know, I would love to see you be part of that and representing us proudly, up in Congress. So thank you so much for being with us today. Let me tell people where they can contact you and where they can donate to your campaign.
Yes. Please go on Henry for Congress. That's our website. It's one of the best websites out there. Our team put it together. It's awesome. Tells you everything about me, my military history from private to sergeant major. Tells about all of our issues, and we have a lot of them. I told you about the 3 pillars today, but there's a number of them, most of us.
Yeah.
And then on Facebook, if you follow us on Facebook, Henry for Congress, grab a hand towel or a dish towel because you're going to be tired. We have not stopped for 14 months. I work a job, and immediately after, I'm out somewhere seeing people in 16 counties. We cover all of them. We were just 2.5 hours away up in Morgan County, visiting those folks at their county fair, and we'll continue to go out amongst the 6th district to see as many people as we possibly can. Very important.
That sounds great. Again, thank you so much, John, and I really appreciate your time, and I look forward to seeing how things go for you, and I will look forward to celebrating your win.
Thank you. With your prayers, we'll know that God will put us right where we need to be.
Yep. Yes, sir. Thanks so much. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us today. This has been a great conversation. I really would encourage you to like, subscribe, go to truthwirenews.com. I cover everything Tennessee. And if you want to check out my other YouTube channel called Still Not Canceled, where I cover some of the national issues that we talk about culturally, politically, that would be great too. Thanks, everybody, and I'll catch you on the next one. Bye-bye.